Welcome to the Haymaker MMA Show with your hosts, Tanai Shah and Ian Wall.
UFC 266 is upon us. We're back again. Brand new mic, brand new me. Looking at a real banger of a card. We're going to add a couple more of these prelims in to our main card predictions here because they're just too damn good. And if it was on any other card, they could be even main events if it was, up to me. But starting off, we got Dan the Hangman Hooker against Nasrat Haqparast, who's been a shining star or a big up-and-comer coming out of TriStar, who hasn't had too many really good killers since GSP now that I think about it. But definitely has so much potential. But Dan Hooker, just a killer. You look at his fights with Dustin Poirier, the damage he's been able to take and still dish back out, coming off of a bad first-round loss to Michael Chandler. But I don't think that was a good account of who Dan Hooker was. But how do you see this one playing out between the Aussie and the, I think he's Afghani, right? Yep, Afghanistan, Nasrat Haqparast.
So I'm going to have to say that Dan Hooker is probably one of the most entertaining fighters at 155. He's not afraid to take a shot to land a bigger one, which is what makes him so exciting. I don't know if you've seen the news or anything, but both these guys have had their visa issues in the past couple of weeks or so. Hooker couldn't get a visa appointment because of the different COVID rules in New Zealand, and Nasrat couldn't get out of Afghanistan until maybe yesterday or something. So both of them have had their issues. First, it was just Hooker's news coming, so I was leaning a little more towards Nasrat because Hooker's landing like the day of the weigh-ins. Imagine making weight on a plane. That's pretty fucking insane.
Those Aussies usually make weight, though, dude. I will say that.
But if anyone can do it, it's Dan Hooker and the New Zealand Aussie guys or whatever. For lines, we have minus 145 Dan Hooker and plus 125 for Nasrat. I do like Hooker to win this fight, but what I like even more is the fight to not go the distance. Like we discussed, the weight cut's gonna be tight. They're not gonna want to hang in there for a long time. They're gonna want to beat each other up and get the fuck out of there, and get their paycheck and get the hell out of there. But if I had to say, yeah, I'd say fight to not go the distance. And yeah, what do you think? While you're looking, I'll just look at the exact line for that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Dan Hooker, man, listening to some of his interviews recently too, like he just seems fired up to get that last loss off of his resume. Nasrat Haqparast, I think has so much potential, but I don't think is necessarily at that elite top 3, top 5, even maybe top 7 caliber guy in the weight division right now because he's still young. How old Nasrat is? 26. Dude's
26.
Dude's a youngin'. He has so much more room to grow, and I think, with Dan Hooker's takedown defense, not that Nasrat really shoots a lot of takedowns, but he's just one of the best, kickboxers in the division, and that is a route that a lot of people see to beating Dan Hooker's, mixing in some wrestling and some stuff like that. But I think, striking, Nasrat brings some power, but even though he doesn't get a lot of TKOs, he definitely gets some respect with some power and his volume. But Dan Hooker is just so clean. He throws so much, isn't afraid to get hit. He's not, you can't really put him on his bike after hitting him for the rest of the fight and scrape out a decision. He's a man who's going to fight for your money also, which is something that I definitely take into account when I think about betting fights. Dan Hooker will fight for this win, fight for your money. If he's down on the scorecards, he's going out with everything in the third round, in the last minute, whatever it is. I like Dan Hooker in this just with his experience and striking advantage over a young, less experienced, little greener Nasrat Haqparast.
Yeah, I like that pick as well. So we were talking about the Dustin Poirier fight and the Michael Chandler fight. So see what happened against Dustin Poirier. He went to 5 rounds, lost probably 3-2 on most scorecards. He took so much damage, and then he faces a heavy-handed guy in Dan Hook and Michael Chandler. So you're almost bound to get rocked pretty quick after you've been through a war like that. So that is not the perfect representation, that quick knockout of Dan Hooker. That's the point I'm trying to make.
True,
and
you go through it. You take that damage in a war. And
yeah, he can eat shots, man. He can move forward without regard or anything and just
And he got played, to be honest, by Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler set it up great. You know, they always say it's the ones you don't see. It wasn't like kind of just 3 to the body, get him in that rhythm, and then crack him up top. It was just that one shot.
Yep.
But Hooker, I agree. Hooker's chin, I think, is still one of the best.
I looked at the line. The fight to not go the distance is -125. So I'm gonna bet that all day, I think.
So we're both on Dan Hooker. You like to not go the distance. The Dan Hooker line is -148, just money line. I'm just taking that because I can see us going to a decision with a durable Hawk Prast. And you're saying you like to not go the distance. What was that line?
-125. Just like either way, not Dan Hooker to finish or anything like that.
Right, just fight to not make it.
Yes. Up next, we have Marlon Moraes taking on Murad Dvalishvili. Moraes, obviously a former title challenger, but he hasn't looked as strong as he usually does since that point. He's been finished a couple of times. He's been dominated a little bit. But you have to say this about Marlon. He opens up faster and stronger than anyone you probably ever know. Him, maybe Michael Chandler and Connor are up there, who open up just so fast and just trying to take your head out in those first 2 or 3 minutes. And unfortunately for Marlon, he gets pretty gassed because of that. He has so much like muscle and things like that, and that's where he gets all the power and speed from. But that gasses him the fuck out, and that's where a lot of people are able to take advantage of, beating Marlon Moraes. You survived that first storm, and then I think you've almost gotten him. Merab, on the other hand, is just a dog. He'll just wrestle you for 80 minutes if he could. He'll just take you down and stay on top. He'll beat you up in the process. Merab recently has been getting a lot of decisions, so I don't want to say confidently. I'm not super confident because Marlon does get finished later in the round. So I'm going to say Merab money line, which is at -265 right now. I understand it's a little steep to just straight bet that, but that's the one I'm confident about. Merab Dvalishvili by just money line.
Yeah, you got Merab, the Georgian machine, and then Marlon Moraes, who's a guy who's a previous title contender. Like you said, it's just in this division in particular, it's just one of the most dangerous guys in the first 5 minutes of the fight. You look at his fight with Henry Cejudo, where he came out and really had Henry on his heels and doing good things, doing some good damage in the first round, and then all of a sudden that second round comes. Henry still comes with the same pace and the same ferocity, and Marlon really tends to fall off that ledge, midway through the second round, usually, which leads to some dominant, wins and losses recently to Jose Aldo, even though he won that fight. I think Jose put a good whooping on him. Then Corey Sandhagen and Rob Font both finishing him, which is not something that he's used to dealing out the KOs. So I wonder how much of a mental thing that's going to play on Marlon Moraes, a guy who's been previously producing so many highlight knockouts for the UFC, and now, given some highlight knockouts for some other guys' tapes. So definitely a super dangerous striker, but only in that first round. And I think, like you said, if you can survive that, I think it's all but over. And then you add, Merab, the Georgian machine to it. I was, I'm into looking at the history of how these fighters do against each other, and you got Georgia, who just historically just wrecks people. Most countries like America, they by landslide have so many more wins than losses against them, and but in Brazil, they're against the Brazilian. Georgia's only 1-1, both decisions, whether it was a win or a loss. Obviously, every fight's different. I think Merab actually has a good shot of getting a stoppage victory in this one. I think if he can survive that early onslaught of Marlon Moraes and can use his overwhelming grappling against a tired Marlon Moraes, I think he can volume punch his way to a TKO. Or if Marlon wants to turtle up and give his back, I think we could be seeing a finish by Merab Dvalishvili. But I also am going to be on Merab this week. Maybe in a couple parlays. I'm nervous about that first round because Marlon Moraes, even if he lost his last 5, he makes me scared with how dynamic he is in the early parts of the fights. So I'm definitely gonna pick Merab in the overall look of things, but I don't know how many how many bucks I'm going to put down on him just because of the dangerousness of Moraes.
Yeah, so I like that. The Marab pick, for sure, I picked the same thing. But here's why I don't want to pick him by either straight up decision or straight up finish is because he's had 13 wins and only 3 finishes.
Right.
And on the other
History
hand,
definitely says he's not a
yes,
finisher.
exactly. And on the other hand, the problem with Marlon is he'll gas out and then he has nowhere to go. So he can get trapped and get TKO'd like that, or he
Right.
might give up his neck or something. So it's a tough one to pick. I'll stick with moneyline.
He's got that Joey Diaz immigrant mentality, motherfucker, and
mentality.
he's here for the belt. So I'd love to see Rob win, and I think he's going to get it done. Next up, opening the main card, we got Jessica Andrade for Cynthia Calvillo. Cynthia more, has that kind of little bit of a Mexican style, but definitely more grappling base. Is definitely a tough chick, but gets almost all of her wins by rear naked choke or decision for via a little bit of pressure on the feet and some good grappling. But she's going up against Jessica Andrade, a real bulldog of the division, just that stocky, so powerful, that slam KO over Rose Namajunas. I don't think Cynthia Calvillo is going to have the grappling advantage that she usually enjoys in a lot of her fights. But how do you see this one playing out?
Yeah. You look at the women that Jessica Andrade has fought in her last 5 fights, even though she's gone maybe 3-2. Valentina, Kaylin Chukagian, Rose twice, and Zhang Weili. And like you said, she's that freaking bulldog, man. Wherever she's going, whatever she's throwing, she's throwing with power. She's slamming you hard on your head. She's punching you hard in the face. And she's one of the few women that I've seen get a body shot finish. And she didn't get it not just over anyone. It was over Kaylin Chukagian, who's a real title contender in that division. Cynthia Calvillo, yes, she's a grappler and she's got heart and everything, but I don't think she can hang with Jessica at all, to be honest. Like that minus 265 line honestly is kind to Cynthia, I feel like, even though it's so broad in favor of Jessica Andrade, because you look at the level of the opponents, plus you look at the power and the skill that Jessica Andrade possesses compared to Cynthia Calvillo, and you can tell that I think pretty certainly that Jessica Andrade is going to win. I'd like to think to take her by finish, but it's just tough sometimes. So I would say money line at minus 265 added to any parlay, I think should be pretty good.
I totally agree. I don't think Cynthia's going to really can bring anything to the table besides I think Jessica's a better grappler. I think she has more power. I think she has more tenacity.
Let me just jump in real quick.
Yeah.
Even if Cynthia takes her down, I doubt she's going to be able to hold her there because she's so fucking strong, dude, Jessica.
Yeah, and one point about these lines, I think a couple good or one or two good parlays with some solid money behind it can make some good cash on this whole card, prelims to main event. I think there's some really good, really confident picks with a kind of some steep lines that don't really return the best value when you do them alone. But I think a good 3-fight, 4-fight parlay or 3-fight parlay with some strong picks on this card can really get some cash.
You can get a nice 4x, 5x, whatever you're looking for with those, to be honest.
Right. But yeah, I like Andrade as one of my more confident picks and bets of the card.
Up next, we got the heavyweights. We got a wrestler versus striker. Curtis Blades, who just wrestles you the whole time and looks for a TKO. Could you imagine? He's a wrestler who's had 14 wins and 10 finishes, and all of his finishes are by TKO. He's not worried about submissions at all. He's just going to ground and pound you. Yeah, very nasty.
For a grappling heavy approach, it is funny that he doesn't have any submission wins.
Exactly.
Under his,
Very, very nasty with the ground and pound, if you remember the Alistair Overeem fight especially, and then the one after that as well. So in the Alistair fight, he just cut him up, and it was literally leaking like ketchup Alistair's head. I don't know, it was scary to watch. And then in his next fight, he fought in Abu Dhabi. I remember that. He fought Shamil Abdurakhmanov. Smashed his nose with his elbow. Nose gone. So Curtis Blades is a scary dude. On the other hand, we have Jairzinho, He's an awesome kickboxer. A lot of power. I'll say he has the now we got Cyril too. So the fourth, probably the top four hardest hitting people at heavyweight. I'll say Francis, Derek, Cyril, and Jairzinho. Jairzinho will catch you from anywhere. You see what he did against Alistair Overeem as well. Got dominated for 4 minutes and 58 seconds. And then on 4 minutes 59 seconds of round 5, he knocked him out. So you can never count that guy out. Never count out his power. I will say this about Curtis Blades. I like him to win. If he plays it smart, he's gonna win. I think I can say with certainty. But the problem is that he doesn't usually play it smart. He does throw his. For being such a good wrestler, sometimes he's a little reckless, and that's when he gets caught. He'll throw a takedown shot from really far without setting it up smart, and then get caught with an uppercut or a shot in the temple, and then get finished. That's been his main issue. Every loss he's had, which is only 3, he's been knocked out by heavy hitters, and Jairzinho Rosenstrike is one of those fucking heavy hitters. So how do you feel about this?
Yeah, like you said, Curtis Blades is such a great wrestling game, and when he gets you to the ground, it's almost a guaranteed kind of game over just because he's just ferocious with his he's position first, right? He gets these dominant positions, and he's so strong in them and just lays freaking elbows and heavy punches. That's where he's more concerned doing his damage. I will say he has gotten much, much better on the feet, technically wise on the feet. I think he KO'd somebody on the feet. Not JDS, yeah. JDS. Which is impressive in its own right. Is definitely an accomplished kickboxer, especially in MMA. Jairzinho, a sick kickboxer outside of the UFC. Coming up to his MMA career. Curtis Blades seems to have everything in his favor to win this. Everyone in the heavyweight division has heavy hands, but like you were saying, all the confidence that you would want to have betting or predicting Curtis Blades in this, it seems like this is a scenario or a test that he's failed, times before this, right? With Ngannou, Derek Lewis, who are, and I'd even put Jairzinho ahead of Cyril Gane on the power punching scale at least. So he's going to be fighting the 3 hardest punchers in the heavyweight division, and he hasn't passed the test 2 times before this. But I think if the biggest adjustment I think Curtis Blades should make is to, instead of using his wrestling out in the open and getting takedowns out in the open, which is good if the person doesn't have defense to help them back up, but it's a lot more dangerous because you're more predictable. There's more space in between you. I think he needs to adapt to a little more of like a body lock clinch to a single leg or body lock takedowns. To avoid those uppercuts and knees, because everyone's just trains that their whole training camp, especially the guys who are already good at kickboxing. Like, I'm sure Jairzinho is just working uppercuts, and maybe some knees or whatever, to give himself. And that is probably the best, smartest way to train for Curtis Blades. I see Curtis Blades to win this fight, but I'm definitely not confident because of the track record of the one punch KOs against these heavy hitters. At the top of the heavyweight division. So I like Curtis, but I don't think I'm going to put any bets down on him just for that PTSD of history.
Yeah, that's a very good point, I think, and I completely agree with it. I think Curtis Blades could, because when you fight these wrestlers who just shoot takedowns and who are really good at it, your hands stay low because you want to keep the underhooks. So if Curtis Blades can throw a couple combinations up top and then shoot, I think that would help him a lot. If I'm betting anything, I'd go Curtis, or I'd just bet fight to end.
I was going to say to not go the distance. I see Curtis taking him down and KOing him, or Jairzinho
KOing him straight up.
Yep.
Yeah. To not go the distance, I think should be the move.
It was minus 200 last time I checked.
Yep. That's what it is. Which is good, honestly, for heavyweights.
Could be worse. Another strong betting opportunity with little steep odds that could be sweet in a parlay for sure. Coming up next in the people's main event of the UFC 266, definitely some other killer fights, but this one is so, especially for the MMA hardcore, so exciting to see the two names. A rematch between Robbie Lawler and Nick Diaz, the older Diaz brother. Really so many mysteries to this fight. So many things could play out. This could be, another crazy brawl, great battle, or could be a little more measured, tactical fight between, I think their first fight happened 17 years ago.
17 years.
So it could be a little more slower, tactical, matured fight, 17 years later in the rematch. But so excited to see a 6 years removed from the cage, Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler, who's just been a damn pioneer to a legend to, I don't know, any term or accolade you can give an MMA or UFC fighter, you can give to Robbie Lawler. So super excited to see this one, but don't know how it's gonna go. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, how can you tell how it's gonna go? That fight happened 17 years ago, dude. We weren't allowed to watch MMA because we were fucking 4 years old or 5 years old, whatever it was. I mean, it's like there's just no way to know if it's gonna happen. And also, Nick hasn't fought in 6 years. 6 years is a long time. And yeah, I was watching the video of that, just how the marijuana got him in trouble, and the Nevada State Commission, the we're asking them questions like the panel, and all Nick kept saying was Fifth Amendment, Fifth Amendment. So that was classic Nick Diaz, And then they had this verdict, and then that one of the fucking members on the panel were like, "The disrespect you've shown to the Nevada State Athletic Commission, we should ban you for life." And this,
who the
and
hell is the Nevada
it's
State?
Disgusting.
Nevada State Athletic Commission has such a damn chip on their shoulder. I feel like they think they're their own kind of celebrity in the fight world, and that they.
I mean, it is the fight capital of the world, but I mean, grow the fuck up, you know. Even it was 5 years ago, still grow up. 6 years ago, whatever you want to say. But whatever. Either way, man. I mean, I can't pick a winner between these two because Robbie can finish a fight any second, and Nick, 6 years ago and 16 years ago, what he would do is he just touch, get you tired, finish you off. Brazil, his BJJ game is obviously world class, just like his brothers. So I can't really say what kind of shape he's gonna come in. I know they changed the fight from 170 to 185 because Nick wanted it that way. So I mean, it is what it is. The Diaz rule just doesn't apply. It's a 5-round fight again for Nick, like it was for Nate, just for whatever the fuck reason, And then I think instead of talking about who we'd pick, I mean, we can just talk about why these guys are so special and why everyone, not just loves Nick Diaz, but also Robbie Lawler. Because Robbie Lawler, you can just sum up what he said yesterday. So yesterday they had media day at the UFC, and a lot of the questions to Robbie were, how do you feel that the fight got changed from 170 to 185? And all he said, dude, I'm ready. I would have liked to be a little heavier, but it is what it is. I'm ready. I'm going to do what I usually do. I'm going to try and, beat his ass and get the knockout. So that just sums up Robbie Lawler. He doesn't care. He loves to scrap. No matter if he's lost his last 4 fights, he's coming in fully prepared, fully confident. And even though they're both old, could you imagine if someone just 3 days before you're making weight, they're like, we're fighting 15 pounds heavier. That's not an easy thing to accept, especially because you've done your job. It's your job and your opponent's job to make 170, and then they just changed it. And he just doesn't give a fuck. He's like, yeah, I'm going to go there and bang like I always do. So,
what's your official prediction on what their weights are going to be? You think Nate Diaz is just going to be like 1 or 5 pounds underweight? And he just didn't want to cut that extra, 7 pounds or whatever to make weight.
I think Nick probably comes in at 183 and Robbie at 185. Honestly,
interesting.
Yeah, I think Robbie's a bigger dude. Like he's huge.
Well, I don't know about that after seeing some of the embedded clips. To kind of segue into the. I feel like there's so many layers to this fight to think about, especially from like a prediction or betting standpoint. I'm so excited about it as a fan, but you got Robbie Lawler coming off of a 4-fight losing streak. Like I said, definitely hasn't shown the same aggression or the knock your head off kind of Robbie Lawler as we've seen for the last 20 years since he was 17 or whatever. So it's not a knock on Robbie Lawler. What are you doing, Robbie Lawler? You're a bitch now. but it just kind of tailed off on the aggression end, which is what he's kind of used to be the best known for and was one of his best attributes. Now you parlay that in with Nick Diaz being 6 years removed, 38 years old, and it being an older guy's fight, and Nick Diaz kind of saying, I'm not trying to bring that gangster shit in anymore.
Yeah.
Definitely trying to I was more wild. I want to be more calculated or whatever. In his interviews, make me think that maybe that intensity might not be actually now I'm talking through it, I think that intensity would really, really help him in this fight to win it. But it's not like, I don't think Nate Diaz is going to be the most dangerous guy to deal with out there. I don't think Robbie's going to take the most damage, especially in the early rounds. Maybe if he gasses in the late rounds. But next layer to that is Nick Diaz is looking all bloated and isn't looking like the usual shredded kind of lean Diaz body that we've come to know between him and Nick. Him and Nate, sorry. And you hear some of the rumors that other MMA outlets have put out about, some rumors of Nick getting KO'd in sparring and like badly, and not being able to compete later, or being able to train later and stuff like that. And there's just a couple bad tokens in the visual and storyline tokens in the Nick Diaz camp. Whether the KO rumors looking slow and like some of these old guys that we see come back to fighting when they do their promos and you finally see them hit pads, or, just shadow box and you're like, whoa, Evander Holyfield, you look like shit. Whoa, Chuck Liddell, you look like you couldn't hit a damn kindergartner if you wanted to. And definitely wasn't as bad as those two, but didn't look like he was comfortable and flowy when Nick Diaz was doing his little shadow boxing promotion.
That tells us fucking nothing, in my opinion.
It doesn't, but every time we've ever seen that happen before, the person's got crushed.
We can't confirm or deny that he got knocked out either. No one can really know as well.
Totally true.
And the shadow boxing stuff, who knows, dude? I mean, they have a weird style anyway. Their dirty boxing, even though it's so good, it's not, when they're shadow boxing, it doesn't look super pretty. The Diaz brothers. You
just pair it all in together. It showed shades of the older dudes, I think, going back to shadow, like the Chuck Liddell shadow boxing. Not as bad as Chuck Liddell by any means, but I don't know. You lump it all together. It was a little concerning for me when I was thinking about this. Yeah, are you not? You think we're gonna get a banging because honestly, more than anything, that's what I guess gives me concern or makes me paranoid, is that I just want to see a classic Diaz performance, with some slaps and fighting through adversity, that kind of stuff. And I'm worried that might not be what we get.
Yeah, of course. I think everyone's worried. I think I'm a little worried too, because 6 years out, he's 38 now. He's, like you said, he's not the most shredded like he usually is, and that sometimes can be a little concerning. But he says that he's a much better fighter. He's been training this whole time. He's been, doing his classes and everything. So I think we just can't tell. That's what I think. We can't tell until we see it, especially for a thing like this. Like, someone, like, if I'm fighting you, and I could put up a whole act for a month and be like, dude, and I could have someone in my camp be like, got knocked out, can slur my words a little more than usual, I can act tired, and this and that, just to, fuck with you. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. It's the visuals. I actually, all of this kind of adding together, I'm actually eyeing a bet on Robbie Lawler this weekend. Just off of, I'll give it the bullet points for it. Off of activity. No, he's not going to be dealing with that ring rust. Nick Diaz has always talked about the stress of the media and that he just wants to go in and fight, has dipped on the kind of media obligations before, has definitely shown some like social awkwardness, and it has not, you can see in some of his interviews, just super uncomfortable, even with just some like basic questions and stuff. So I just think there's so much on the table for Nick Diaz to have to deal with that Robbie Lawler is already comfortable and in his, in in his comfort zone doing this. That I like at these odds. I like Robbie Lawler to get this done in one shape or the other. Is at minus 154. I think after the latest promos and little things that I've referenced had surfaced, the line kind of shifted. It was really even a couple days ago.
Right.
But I'm as the more I think about it, the more confident I grow on Robbie Lawler. As much as I would love to see a Nick Diaz comeback in a classic Diaz fashion, I'll pay whatever bet I lose on betting on Robbie Lawler to see that. I'll leave a happy man. But
Yeah.
I'm confident on Robbie Lawler, not to get the TKO, but to I don't think it's going to be the most exciting fight. Unfortunately, I really hope it is. But the more I watch and the more logic I kind of put into it, I think it's going to be a longer one. That's really going to be decided in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. In our co-main, we got Valentina the Bullet Shevchenko against Lauren Murphy. Valentina, just a damn assassin of a lady. I think really just one of the most elite females of our generation in every facet. And I truly believe that. In intelligence, combat, whatever. Sorry, I'm going down the rabbit hole on Valentina Shevchenko.
It's fine.
There are
We all
few
love
men worthy to
Yeah.
to be with Valentina Shevchenko. Against Lauren Murphy. Lauren Murphy, you know, you hate to discredit her because she's kind of done it the old-fashioned way. They've just grinded through, hasn't had the most publicity, has racked up a couple losses in her earlier UFC career, but on the second go around, she's on a 5-fight win streak. She got Maura Borello, Andrea Lee, Roxanne Modafferi, Joanne Calderwood, some good names. But Valentina Shevchenko, if Murphy's not going to bring anything to the table for Valentina. Every time I think Valentina's going to take somebody for granted, she never really does. I watch her, some of her training footage coming up to this, and she's getting after it. She's talking about another finish. I don't think there's any way Lauren Murphy survives 5 rounds with Valentina Shevchenko. I liked a double chance or whatever you want to call it on your betting site to have Valentina win by finish, which was coming in at minus 230 right now. I think I got it at the minus 180 range, which was a good snag for me. But yeah, super confident on this one. Valentina all day. The money line's minus 1,300, so there's definitely no value in that. But yeah, Valentina all day.
Yeah, I have to agree inside the distance. I was even thinking rounds 1, 2, and 3, that was at minus 115. You gotta give Lauren Murphy her credit, though. She's earned her title shot the right way. She's beaten all the contenders, even though she had a slow start in the UFC. Since then, she's beaten all the tough ladies in her way, and she's earned her shot. She's on a 5-fight win streak, like you said. And she really believes she can take out Valentina, but unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. Valentina, like you said, just one of the best athletes, one of the best fighters on the UFC roster, male or female. She's so fast, she's so smart, she's so dominant.
Just disciplined, dude.
And yeah, I think, probably Kamaru Usman, Nunes, and her are the most dominant champions at the moment, at least.
And just when you out physical Jessica Andrade, it's just so
exactly.
Versatile, dude.
That's a lot. And it's just those things, what was her fight? Jennifer Maia won 1 round against Valentina Shevchenko, and people made a big deal out of it. That's when you know how good Valentina is. That
right. Someone wins 1 round and they're
1 round, and people are making a huge deal about it, even though you toss her around the rest 4.
Right.
So that's how fucking good she is. And Lauren Murphy, maybe she beats almost everyone else in the division, but definitely not Valentina Shevchenko. That's how much the gap is in that flyweight division. So yeah, I agree with that pick, and good luck, Valentina. She's honestly one of the best fighters, human beings you want to call it. She's so skilled at everything,
And even though she's so dominant, she's got a unique position where people still want to see her win, still want to see her dominate. Whereas a lot of the dominant champions, you always want to see them lose, but people are always happy to see Valentina win.
How can you not? She's just the best. She's so professional. She's so, she's always involved in everything, even when she's not fighting. You see her in the UFC PI, like doing videos with other people and watching fights from home, giving her reactions and things like that. So
Just an,
yeah,
an elite woman.
yeah, that's the perfect way to describe her. For the main event, we have Alexander the Great Volkanovski taking on T City Brian Ortega for that 145 belt. Volkanovski obviously won it from Max Holloway, and then he beat him again to defend it. Little questionable with that decision, but good on him. He has 2 wins over Max. We'll leave it at that. We're not going to discuss that anymore. I've had that discussion a million times. Ortega, after getting dominated by Max in 2018, comes back and absolutely dominates Korean Zombie, Chan Sung-jung. Looked much improved with his hands. We all know how good he is on the ground with his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, these guys were on The Ultimate Fighter, which they were together probably for 6 weeks maybe in Vegas filming the show, and they were the coaches. They had their teams, and there's a good amount of back and forth going on. Apparently, T-City got under Volkanovski's skin a little bit.
Yeah, I actually, he got under my skin a little bit too, but.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you on this one. I mean, he would show up late. He would make comments and things like that. Look, I like the description that Volkanovski gave him, that he's like a little spoiled brat, not giving a shit about anyone else's time, not setting a good example for Team Ortega, as they say. So I like that little heat that got built up before there was nothing. And these guys were supposed to fight probably a couple months ago, but then Volkanovski got COVID at the time. It's a great matchup. Honestly, the fair thing to do would be to give Volkanovski Max after what Max did to Calvin Kattar. But we want to see some parity in the UFC, and that's fair. Give him Ortega the next best. As for the fight, I mean, dude, Volkanovski probably comes with the best game plan ever of anyone I've ever seen. And he's very good at sticking to it. Even though like in the second Max fight, even though he got touched up a little bit in the first 2 rounds, he stuck to his game plan and he grinded it out. He's such a dog. Like, he's so good and well-rounded that he can take you down, hold you there. He can outstrike you at times, and he has a lot of power. He has very underrated power, especially he was like 215 pounds. But could you imagine that? He was 215 pounds playing rugby, and now he's 145.
Yeah, crazy.
So he has so much more power than all these regular 145 pounders.
Just from living a body with that frame.
Exactly. And having that kind of contact with the 300 pounders playing rugby or whatever. So good on him. He's done really well cutting his weight, and he never misses or anything like that. Professional champion again. Brian Ortega, on the other hand, you might say he's not disciplined or he's late and this and that, but he is a world-class fighter. Come on. He can finish you from anywhere, from his back or anything, and now he's got the striking that's catching up. Not really catching up to his BJJ because his BJJ is that good, but it's catching up to his total MMA game. And that absolutely flourished against the Korean Zombie, so it's a little tough one to pick. What do you think?
Yeah, just like you were saying with Ortega's striking, you go back to his Holloway fight where he was undefeated going in. It was like, oh, this is gonna be really tough for Holloway. And Holloway just beat the brakes off him, man, for
like 12 punch.
It was like hard to watch, and just looked like made it seem like, Brian Ortega's striking is not. He's got some really, really big holes in his striking game. Went back to the drawing board, seemed like he filled some of those holes and, put on a great performance against the Korean Zombie. But I guess we'll see with this fight. I wonder how much of it was A, he was just on that night, and how much of it is B, the Korean Zombie was off and maybe doesn't have the most, precise or whatever you want to call it, striking that we thought he kind of once did. But then Alexander Volkanovski, another guy who just like low key is. I know he's a champion and he gets publicity and people know his name, but I feel like isn't appreciated as much as he should. Really he's undefeated in the UFC. He's got 1 loss overall to some guy in his 4th fight on the regional scene. Didn't have the most crazy wins before his run to the title, but Shane Young's a great I think actually he's not fighting on this card, but a great Aussie fighter who is definitely not an easy out for anybody. Darren Elkins, Chad Mendez, and then here's the one that everyone forgets about, the Jose Aldo fight. Everyone forgets about that. He out leg kicked Jose Aldo, who's been known his whole life for leg kicks. Showed great leg kick defense in his last fight. Jose did against Pedro Munoz, and like you said, just that true, well-rounded game where he can press you to the fence, get a takedown if he needs it. Just chips away with everything. You know, Some people chip away with punches. Some people chip away with some takedowns to gas you out. Some people chip away with the leg kicks. He is simultaneously chipping away with everything, with the leg kicks, with the now, it has always had that Aussie tenacity, like you said, where he could be 215. Now he's 145, and he's still, he'll run through a brick wall if you want him to. Powerhouse, just, and has that crazy, like, isn't scared of ramifications, if that makes sense, which I think is not unique to the Australians, but definitely the Aussies seem to carry that more than some other countries. Now another thing that had me thinking is, like you said, he had COVID, right? And some of these dudes are talking about, especially the athletes are talking about, like, dude, I'm 6 months removed from having COVID, and I'm still, like, my respiratory system, my lungs, my whatever.
Up a little bit, yeah.
Now, and in the UFC content I've seen, they've made it a point a lot of times to say, he's had COVID, but I'm back to normal. And, like, I'll have, like, little stuff that's like, oh, my cardio's finally back to regular. It's making me a little nervous that he might still be affected by this COVID stuff.
I think they said COVID so much because the last fight got canceled because of it, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, well, I know that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like they're kind of harping on, like, yeah, I had COVID and I was out from that last fight, but now I'm back and I'm still in great shape, and I'm back to regular. And like, it wasn't even a thought of mine before they kept harping on it, and that made me think, like, reverse psychology, right? Like, almost think, like, maybe he's this could be an issue. Whatever. Long story short, I think Alexander Volkonovski's pissed off. You got a pissed off Australian hobbit coming in with a great skill set, great game plan. Makes me nervous that he's never really fought any submission kind of specialists. But overall, I like Alexander Volkanovski hard in this fight. Brian Ortega's got a coach for he's got a coach for his left foot, his right foot, his left eye, all his hair. It's like, he's got a coach for everything, man. And in history, he's shown me some signs that is one of the pitfalls of the new up and coming person trying to become a champion, is kind of revamping, getting too many coaches, too many cooks in the kitchen, and just losing that fighting bullshit that got them there. And I think Volk's got that. So I like Alexander Volkanovski in this one.
Well, I'll give you a couple points. The coaches, you said he has a coach for everything. That looked like it helped him against the Korean Zombie. So it could be like bad, it could be good again.
I thought they were saying or in the content I was watching was I think they were saying it was new coach, new strength and conditioning.
That was after Max. So Max beat the shit out of him, like we talked about. And then he said, I let go of a bunch of my guys. I only kept Henry Gracie, and then I got all these specialists in.
Well, either way, I'm still fading the pretty boy energy and riding with the dirty, angry Australian who seems like, you're going to have to take his head off or choke him unconscious because he's not going anywhere.
I'm with you on that pick. I will say that if Volkanovski, which he usually doesn't do, we talked about his game plans and how he follows them very well. I hope he doesn't fight too angry. That could play into Ortega. He could slip out a neck or something like that.
True.
Ortega's a dangerous guy like that. And you brought up another thing, that Volkanovski is one of the most underappreciated champions. There's a reason to it. Because the Max Holloway fight, it's because even though that was such a close fight that he lost, that Max should have won, it's because people love Max so much.
Which sucks because Volkanovski's awesome too.
I am the biggest Max Holloway fan, and if I tell people, like, it's been a year and a half or something like that since that last fight, a year maybe, and I talk to someone new about MMA or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, dude, Max Holloway's my favorite fighter, they'll be like, how about that fucking fight with Volkanovski? How ridiculous. How much of a robbery was that? And shit. I was like, yeah, I mean, Max should have won, but give Volkanovski credit. That was a really close fight. And some people saw it that way, whatever. But it's always like they're trying to get me to bash Volkanovski, and I find it hard to do so, even though I love Max so much.
Right.
So that's probably why he doesn't get the love and the respect that he deserves. But I mean, he should. He really should.
Also, should be noted, even though Volkanovski's it seems like he's going to be a much smaller kind of or more compact frame than Ortega. He's going to have the reach advantage, which is weird with those. Somewhat weird how those long arm shit works.
That's how he had it against Max too. Max and his probably the same, or Volkanovski is a little more.
Right.
Because Max almost like 5'10", 5'11".
Yeah, Ortega and Max have similar builds. So UFC 266 got some strong betting opportunities with some steep odds, but my top 3 picks of the whole card, I'm going to slap in a parlay for myself, is going to be Omar Morales over Jonathan Pierce. Omar Morales, a huge frame for the division, super strong, really durable. Came out a little slow in his last fight, but after he gets hit a couple times, he turns into a monster and is really hard for people to deal with. Jonathan Pierce is a kind of a well-rounded dude, likes to get takedowns against the cage and kind of chip away at you on the ground, search for a submission or a volume ground and pound. And Omar Morales training with the Burns brothers. I don't think he's going to have any problem with Pierce on the ground, going to be able to get up and score more points or get a KO on the feet. I like confident Omar Morales in the first fight of the card. Next fight of the card, my second confident pick, Matt Semmelsberger over Martin Sano. Sano's getting the Diaz brother treatment, 0-2-1 in his last 3. It's just part of the Diaz brothers fight team, so he's getting a debut over Matt Semmelsberger. I think Matt Semmelsberger is just going to run over him. Sano's just not very athletic. Semmelsberger is going to have the edge in every category. And then finally, last pick on the parlay is Jessica Andrade over Cynthia Calvillo. Calvillo, a grappling base. Jessica Andrade is going to be so much stronger, better on the feet. It's not going to be able to be held down by Cynthia Calvillo. I don't think Cynthia's really going to have anything for her. So that 3-fight parlay is going to be my strongest 3 picks of the card. And I think there's some other good ones in there, but those are my 3 most confident ones that I think I would consider a lock for this weekend. So thanks for staying with us. This will be our last week known as the Haymaker MMA. Changed the name up a little bit, adding a new couple bodies to the team. Going to be breaking into 2 different shows. We're going to be known as the Doctor's Stoppage. We're going to have Tanai going over a little more of the news, some current events, maybe get some interviews in there. Really what's hot in the MMA world. And then I'm going to be handling the betting show, the Dr. Stoppage betting show, where we're going to be going a little more in-depth on the bettings, seeing if we can make a couple bucks, find some good values in some bets every week. And so keep a lookout for that. The Dr. Stoppage betting show, the Dr. Stoppage podcast. Excited to keep this thing moving.
Yeah, we've got the same Instagram page and the same YouTube page. So if you're a subscriber and a follower, thank you. And if you're going to be a new one, we hope that you subscribe and follow us for all the news, updates, and betting picks and whatever else we talk about. It's going to be really interesting. Also, the podcast is going to be published on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well, so keep an eye out for that.
And that's going to be, what, Mondays or?
Yeah, so the podcast we'll do on Mondays and then the betting show on Thursdays.
Be on the lookout for the Dr. Stoppage coming in hot with a couple new bodies.